The last letter from Blackwood Asylum. The letter arrived on a cold, gray morning. The kind of morning where the fog clung to the earth like a shroud, and the air tasted of damp decay. It was addressed to me in a shaky, spidery handwriting that I barely recognized. The return address sent a chill down my spine. Blackwood Asylum, Ravenswood, Vermont. I hadn't heard from my sister Clara in over a year, not since she was admitted to Blackwood. The last time I saw her, she was standing in the doorway of our childhood home, her eyes wide and unblinking, her voice a hollow whisper. "They're coming for me, Evelyn. They're already here." I had tried to convince her it was just her anxiety, her paranoia, but she had only stared at me as if I were a stranger. The next day, she was gone, taken to Blackwood by men in white coats who said she was a danger to herself. Now, her letter sat in my hands, the paper thin and yellowed, as if it had been written years ago. My fingers trembled as I unfolded it. "Dearest Evelyn, if you're reading this, then I'm already gone. I don't have much time, so I beg you to listen carefully. Blackwood is not what it seems. The doctors, the nurses, the walls themselves, they're all lying. This place is not a sanctuary for the broken. It is a prison for the chosen. Do you remember the stories Mother used to tell us? The ones about the old gods who slept beneath the earth, waiting for the day they would rise again? I used to think they were just stories, but now I know the truth. They are real, Evelyn, and Blackwood is their gateway. The doctors here, they're not human. They wear the faces of men, but their eyes are wrong. They watch us, not to heal, but to select. Every night, they take one of us. I've heard the screams echoing through the halls, the sound of something feeding. They say it's just the wind, but I know better. I've seen the shadows moving in the corners of my room, heard the whispers in the walls. They're calling my name, Evelyn. They're coming for me tonight. I don't know if this letter will reach you in time, but if it does, you must promise me one thing. Do not come looking for me. Do not try to find Blackwood. Burn this letter and forget you ever read it. If you come here, they will take you too. They will use you, just as they've used me. I'm sorry for everything, Evelyn. I'm sorry I couldn't be stronger. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. But please, for the love of God, stay away from Blackwood. Goodbye, my dear sister. Forever yours, Claire." The letter slipped from my hands, fluttering to the floor like a dead leaf. My heart pounded in my chest, and a cold sweat broke out on my skin. Clara had always been imaginative, prone to flights of fancy. But this was different. Her words were too desperate, too specific. And the handwriting, it was hers. But it was wrong, as if she had been trembling violently as she wrote. I told myself it was just her illness talking, the delusions that had plagued her for years. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Clara had always been my anchor, the one who held me together when our parents died. I couldn't just abandon her, not when she sounded so afraid. Against my better judgment, I packed a bag and set out for Ravenswood. The asylum, Blackwood Asylum, loomed on the edge of town, a monstrous structure of crumbling stone and rusted iron gates. The building seemed to sag under its own weight, its windows dark and lifeless, like the eyes of a corpse. The air around it was unnaturally still, as if the world itself was holding its breath. I approached the gates, my footsteps echoing in the silence. A sign hung crookedly from the fence, its letters faded and peeling. Blackwood Asylum for the mentally infirm. S. 1892. No visitors allowed. The misspelling sent a shiver down my spine. It was as if the place itself was mocking me, daring me to enter. The gates creaked open on their own as I approached, the sound like a scream in the stillness. I hesitated, Clara's warning echoing in my mind. Do not come looking for me. But I couldn't turn back now. Not when I was so close. The inside of the asylum was even worse than the outside. The walls were stained with something dark and flaking. the air thick with the stench of mildew and decay. The floorboards groaned beneath my feet, and the shadows seemed to shift and writhe as I passed. I found the front desk abandoned, a layer of dust covering the surface. A single file lay open, its contents spilling out like entrails. I picked it up, my stomach churning as I read the name on the label, Clara Hargrove. The file was filled with notes written in a cramped, hurried script. Most of it was illegible, but a few phrases stood out. Patient exhibits signs of extreme paranoia and delusions. Claims to hear voices in the walls. Refuses to eat or sleep. Subject has been selected for further study. Further study? What did that mean? A sound broke the silence. A low, guttural moan that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The sound came again, closer this time, followed by the unmistakable shuffle of footsteps. I turned and ran, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The hallway seemed to stretch on forever, the walls closing in around me. The footsteps grew louder, faster, until they were right behind me. I could feel hot breath on the back of my neck, hear the wet, clicking sound of something opening its mouth. I woke up in a cold sweat, my sheets tangled around me. The room was dark, the only sound the steady ticking of the clock on the wall. It had been a dream, just a dream. But as I sat up, I noticed something on the floor beside my bed. A single sheet of paper, yellowed and thin, with spidery handwriting scrawled across it. You shouldn't have come, Evelyn. The ending. The story can continue with Evelyn uncovering the horrifying truth about Blackwood Asylum, the doctor's experiments, the ancient entity they served, and Clara's fate. The ending could be a chilling revelation that Evelyn herself has been selected, and the letter she received was a trap to lure her to the asylum. The final scene could show her writing her own letter, knowing it will never be sent, as the shadows close in around her.